Okay, I think we got everybody here so far. Debbie's running a little bit late. Okay, but we have some extra seats, so.
Did everyone get a chance to use the bathroom, get something to drink, and take care of everything that y'all need? Because I have really boring stuff to go over before Kelly gets to the fun stuff. So we're going to do kind of an icebreaker since we have a big group. I think it's really neat that we have people that haven't met each other before. I haven't met all of you before or got to spend very much time with you. So I'd like, I'll start and then we'll go to Kelly and then we'll just go down the tables. I'm going to introduce myself, say how long I've been affiliated with Family Promise, and one word that describes me. And so I'm Christina Hannes. I'm the volunteer coordinator. I have been involved with Family Promise for 3.5 years now. I've worked for Family Promise for a year, and I think I'm kind. I think that.
I'm Kelly Shofsky. I'm the case manager. I've been here 5 years, and I'm tough.
Gotta have a balance. Your turn.
I'm Laura McComber. It's my first time. I'm clueless.
Oh, glad you're here.
That's why we're here.
I'm Teresa Zawalski. I've been probably close to 3 years. From a Family Promise, love it. I'm Nana.
I'm Deb Hobby, and I've been involved with Family Promise at the United Congregational Church in Lincoln City since September, since I moved here. And speechless. Clueless and speechless.
All right, Christy, are you ready?
Who's next? Which end do we want to start at?
I'm Christy Garrett. I have been on the board for about a year, maybe not quite. And I also help with the Congregational Church. And I think clueless would have been good. Speechless would have been good for me. I just think I'm kind of a just kind of brainless today, to tell you the truth. I'm
It's
fried.
She's got kind of a day. It's all the sunshine. It's really getting to us.
I know, too much sunshine.
All right, Lynette, are you ready?
Yes, I'm Lynetta, and I'm also on the board for about a year now, a little over, I guess. And I was involved with Family Promise 20 years ago, at least in Forest Road. So I was a volunteer there. And so now I'm getting back in the swing of things here in Lincoln City. And I feel today my goal is to be efficient, but we'll see. Okay.
I'm Scott Rosen. I'm involved with the Family Promise program at St. Peter the Fisherman Lutheran Church. One word, I guess, would be busy.
Yes.
Thank you for being here.
I'm Carol Rolfe in Rosen, and we're newlyweds, so and I've been involved with Family Promise since I came to the Lutheran Church. I think that was 2013, maybe. I can't remember. My late husband died in 2012. It was after that.
St. Peter's has been in since the beginning,
So
so 5
since
years.
2013.
Yep, that sounds about
Okay.
right.
It's one word. Oh, one word.
Oh, yeah.
One word. Carrie.
Karen.
Okay.
What's the one word that you describe me?
Just one word that describes yourself.
Okay. My name's Heather, and I've been involved in Family Promise for a while at the Adventist Church since, I guess, about the same time as it started.
Be positive.
Scattered.
Scattered. I'm Susan. I'm Heather's mom. So we've worked together in Family Promise at the SDA Church. We've done it since it started. Organized.
Yay!
Yay!
That's why I'm here.
Can I be your friend?
Who's going to start in the back?
Either side, doesn't matter.
I'm Lisa Prince
surgery.
I'm Sandy Club, and I'm with the Seventh-day Adventist. I also volunteer with Family Promise themselves. And I'm overwhelmed.
I'm Shirley Ortegon, and I'm with the St. Peter's Lutheran Church, the coordinator there. I think I've been there about 2.5 years, maybe, yeah, and good listener.
Hey, Shirley.
That's my husband, Marty.
Marty's word is ditto.
I have to introduce Rudy. Sorry, Rudy told me to pretend like he's not there, but this is Rudy.
Hi, Rudy.
Thanks, Rudy, for filming us. All right, so I'm going to try and get through this and answer all the questions I can as quick as possible. A lot of it is a little bit redundant, but it's what I really want to focus on is talking about recording our hours for volunteers, because without the volunteer hours recorded through the churches, we won't get funding. So we have to turn them in and meet a certain criteria to be able to get funding for the volunteer hours, so we get paid for them basically. So with accurate logging, we'll get the most for all the hard work that you guys do. I'm going to start on the first page, is the volunteer chain of command, volunteer coordinator and staff. And I'm just going to go through and read this one. If you guys have any questions, just raise your hand, or we can ask questions at the end, whatever you prefer. So, as you guys know, Family Promise is a community-based nonprofit organization whose mission is to alleviate child homelessness by mobilizing the communities and building partnerships with congregations and social service agencies to provide shelter, meals, and more as families strive for sustainable independence. Some of our volunteer expectations are to maintain confidentiality. And speaking of that, there's a pile of confidentiality policy papers on the end of your table. If you guys can take some of those and just pass them out to your congregation, make sure everyone has one of those signed, and either mail it back to me, or we can collect it when we go through to your church, however you want to do it. Or sign one, and if you don't think you've signed one yourself, then go ahead and sign one and leave it here with me, and I'll take it and file it. Family-friendly environment, drug and alcohol-free zone. Please call if you can't make it, your coordinator or me, if you can't make it for a shift that you have signed up for. And record volunteer hours in big bold letters. Understand that the families are under stress. They may not have the same social skills as you or people in your congregation. Families may not have the same parenting style, and they need more flexibility because of these issues, and they need more compassion because of these issues. Always respect the family's privacy and personal beliefs. And then on the bottom is for emergency procedures. The coordinators, we would like the coordinators to discuss with the volunteers where the fire extinguishers are, where the phones are, to be able to call 911 if needed. Just small things that some people might not know coming in on a last minute. These packets are really good to have available to say, here is this information, please read it, go through it, and then it's kind of a form of orientation without actually having had it, but it's really good information to have on hand all the time. And then the next page is the confidentiality policy. You can just flip that one over. This third page is volunteer logistics. We're going to talk about donations and gifts. Guests should not ask volunteers for or accept direct gifts, including money or specific items. Donations of furniture, household goods, and clothes, unless of immediate need, will be held until the family is settled in permanent housing. So basically, if you're wanting to donate things to a family, it's got to go pass through Kelly. So we would keep it here until their house is ready and they've moved on and they've followed all the process to get out into their own house and maintained and sustained it, and then they can have the things.
Can I interject?
Yep.
We have a lot of congregations want to do specific things for specific families, and that's fine. They can do that, or a volunteer can do that. If it's for a specific family, then call me up and say, hey, they have a need, we would like to donate. Several of our congregations do that, but they want it to remain anonymous. So if it comes here and it goes out through me or through Elizabeth, it remains anonymous. That way they don't know what church it came from or what person it came from.
Okay, exceptions to that rule are small items in books given to each family equally, so just not having any favoritism so nobody feels less or more than the other. Holiday items, Easter baskets, Halloween treats, and things like that for the holidays. Birthdays, it's okay to recognize birthdays with cake and ice cream and a small gift from the congregation as a whole, but not from individual volunteers. Volunteers should make all gifts anonymous and via the network director. Monetary gifts should be made to the network, not to individual guests. And that also plays into our tax deduction as well for the donation. Did you have something to say there? No. Okay, sorry, I thought you did. So the next one we'll talk about, and there were some questions on this one before, so feel free to interject if you guys have any questions. Bringing children to volunteer. It's kind of a church by church case. We want to respect all churches and how they feel. Some churches do not like the volunteer to have children with them and just only want to focus on the kids that they have there and the families within the program. So these are the rules that would apply if you were bringing a child to church and it was allowed there. Children of all ages can volunteer on a church-to-church basis. They must be accompanied by an adult who has participated in the training and can help address issues and concerns. Before bringing your kids along, consider what they might do. They're going to probably be playing with the guest children, helping clean up, and volunteering. Make sure they have a role and aren't just standing around. Prepare children beforehand. Provide age-appropriate information. For example, addressing their questions like, "Mommy, why don't they have a home?" Follow up and give children time to discuss their experience after volunteering. Did anyone have any questions on that? All right, parenting. Parents are responsible for their children. If a parent is having trouble, you may offer to assist, but do not interfere. Always ask permission before giving things to children or engaging them in an activity, and always respect the parent's no. Respect the guest's right to parent their own children. If abuse or neglect is observed or suspected, volunteers must immediately contact the coordinator or on-call staff phone. If a child is in immediate danger, call 911.
I am the on-call staff.
Issues. If a volunteer has an urgent concern that they need to be addressed that night, he or she should contact their coordinator or Kelly. For issues with children, please defer to the parent, and for an emergency, 911.
It may be difficult. We have had a specific family that I'm thinking about right now, was a single mother with 2 boys. There were many times at many churches she did not allow the boys to interact with the other kids, or like at Congregational they do a lot of arts and craft things. She would not allow her boys to participate in that, and some of the volunteers felt bad for the boys. You know, she wanted to include them, and the mother said no. If the parent says no, you need to respect that. There may be a specific reason for that. Even if there's not, and it's just the parent's wishes, we have to respect that. But you can still call me and say, "Oh, hey Kelly, I've noticed for the last 2 or 3 nights, this particular parent is not allowing her children to interact and play games or anything like that." I need to know that kind of stuff. The next morning, I'm going to talk to that parent and ask if there's a reason or a concern why they don't want to allow their children to interact with anybody else.
All right. So the next page, everyone on the code of conduct page. We're going to start and just read these in a line as a whole. I'll start, Kelly will go, and then Laura, you get to go, and we'll just do the same way that we did the introduction. So the Family Promise Code of Conduct, number 1, a volunteer shall treat all participants, volunteers, staff members, and representatives from collaborating agencies with respect, courtesy,
2, a volunteer shall safeguard the participant's right to confidentiality within the limits of the law.
Number 3, a volunteer shall discuss any suspicion of child abuse with the case manager immediately.
Number 4, a volunteer shall demonstrate non-discrimination among all persons served and among the employees, volunteers, and others involved in the program.
5, a volunteer shall refrain from secluding his or herself alone with a participant, the participant's child, by remaining in sight of other participants, volunteers, or staff.
6, for the safety of both volunteers and guests, volunteers are not to accept primary responsibility for children in the program. They must remain under the supervision of their parents at all times.
7, a volunteer shall refrain from providing personal information, i.e. phone number, address, to a participant. The volunteer will inform a staff member of family promise with any exception of circumstances.
8, volunteers will use appropriate touch, including pats on the back or shoulder, side hugs, handshakes, and high fives. Volunteers will refrain from full frontal hugging, touching of personal areas, or patting on the buttocks.
9, volunteers shall not have private interactions through social media, computer, or handheld devices with any children in the program.
And 10, all donations to guests, monetary and/or goods, must be coordinated through staff. Guests are not permitted to request or accept donations of any kind without prior approval of the director, and could be removed from the program if they violate this rule.
Are there any questions about number 5? Go ahead. Question in general.
I have a confession. The time I did it at the first time, there was a woman who said she and her husband were cleaning houses. And so I said, oh, I got all excited, and I took their phone number, which I have since deleted from my phone, but that, I mean, I didn't know. So,
If you ever have a question, she knows how to handle it. I think that the interaction that she has on a different level with the families than some of the coordinators get to see, I guess, from the day-to-day, it's really hard to justify or understand whether or not this would be appropriate for this time or that time. But if you ever have any question, I just call.
right.
If it's something like that, you can take their information,
Oh,
if you were, say, and then what you could say to them is, look, according to policy, you can say she's the mom. You can share your information with me. Just know that I would not be able to make use of it until after you've graduated the program.
oh, okay.
Okay? That way they're out of the program, there's no favoritism, there's nothing like that going
Okay.
on.
So, sounds like I would call you anyway.
You could, yes.
Okay. And say, when does so-and-so get out of the
Right.
program? And-
Right.
Okay.
They'll tell you, they're excited when they get ready.
Okay.
So for number 5, when it says a volunteer shall refrain from secluding his or herself along with a participant or a participant's child, does everybody understand the reasoning for that? Yes, safe laws, safe touch, safe everything. That's for your protection. That's for your protection. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't have a private conversation that doesn't mean that I can't have a private conversation with Christina. If you're the volunteer, we can stand right here and talk. If I'm the other volunteer, we can stand right here and talk and have a quiet conversation. But I'm still in visual of somebody else. Whether it's man, woman, 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 whatever kind of configuration you want to get, you need to have that visual. It's important for you.
Carol.
I wanted to go back to her comment because since these people are looking for work, why would it not be appropriate to offer them a house cleaning job?
Not while they're in the program.
Really?
Really.
They can't have a job while they're in
They
the
can, but not from a volunteer or someone who's working for Family Promise. It's policy.
And I think it all has to do with also like the laws and stuff, because most of those situations, they maybe are getting paid under the table, like there's no paper trail or anything. They could turn around and say something, it's just stuff could get misconstrued so easily that it's not worth the risk.
That makes sense to me.
Because they could, and you may mean well, if they need a job, particularly if it's house cleaning or yard work or something like that, you may have the utmost regard for them in doing that and offering them a job and having some income. The issue becomes when they sit around with each other here at the day center or at the dinner table, what if I'm that person you offer that job to and I'm saying, hey Christina, Carol offered me a job. You know what she's paying me? And she's not gonna hire you, she hired me. See, it doesn't look good.
Yeah.
But you could say, once you graduate the program, if you're still interested, they can come and do that. Yes?
I have another question. So I recognized one of the families, and they were working in the Safeway. And I probably should not have greeted the two of them were there together. I probably shouldn't have greeted them, right?
I think greeting them is.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, hey.
Yeah, I
see
know.
you're not in Family Promise today, or
Right.
whatever.
Yeah. It's okay. See, it gets a little sticky. For me, I'm a counselor. I'm a licensed counselor. If I have somebody come in and do a counseling session with me, and then I see them out in public, ethically, I cannot initiate with them because of confidentiality and privacy. If you're out in the community, the whole goal of this program is to get them integrated into the community. Hi, how you doing today? How's everything? How's work?
Oh, okay.
That's good.
All right.
You don't want to go up to them and say, oh, hey, have you graduated yet? Well, no, because then everybody's going to say, well, what do you need to graduate from?
Right.
So something along those lines.
Okay. All right. Good. Thanks.
Okay, any more questions on the code of conduct?
How long does it take to graduate? How do I know when I can approach them?
It's a 90-day program. Sometimes the board will allow extensions under certain circumstances, but it's generally a 90-day program, or less. We have families come in and graduate really quickly. So anywhere from
I don't wanna interrupt you.
up to 90 days.
So you can't like walk up to them and, you know, say anything, but if you see them across the room in Safeway, can you just wave
Yeah.
and smile so you're not being rude?
Yeah, you can walk up to them. You can't
Billy
walk up to
can't.
them.
I can't. I cannot.
Can you wave?
If they make eye contact with me, yes, but I cannot initiate. It's part of the code of ethics for being a counselor.
Well, if you think about it, if I know she's a counselor, and then she's approaching these people, then I can think, they're getting her help. So it puts a potential taint on
Yeah,
them.
it's just
It's a stigma,
It's just an ethical
potentially.
thing.
But
Yeah.
as a volunteer, I can.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
understand.
And they,
I'm-
I think
I'm being-
families appreciate
Now,
it.
Yeah,
now I'm
yeah.
quite cynical and everything.
So
Okay.
graduating means that they've gotten a place to live. Is that
Yes.
right? Yeah.
Yes.
Move into their house or apartment.
I want to go on
I'm
number
gonna
6
need
just
some
real
help with
quick.
this, y'all. I am much too outgoing and friendly.
So I want to go back
to the
to
right things to say.
what? Yes, Shirley.
Now, once they leave, once they graduate from the
Uh-huh.
program, then is it okay to have contact with them?
Uh-huh.
Like I've had some of them come up and say, oh, I have my own apartment now.
Yeah.
I have a table for you to sit at. You can come over for dinner or whatever. Are we allowed to do that
That's
after
great.
they graduate?
That's great.
Okay.
That's fabulous.
That's part of the whole family promise model and why
Yes.
they do it the way that they do, utilizing congregations, is so that they can not only get like the fundamentals that they need, but also build relationships in the community and strengthen their skills and their support systems and things like that.
Did you get a folder?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Hang on just one second. So for number 6, where it says, for the safety of both volunteer and guests, volunteers are not to accept primary responsibility for children in the program. They must remain under the supervision of their parents at all times. The majority of our parents smoke. So if they come up to you and say, hey, I need to go take a smoke break, I'm going to leave Susie and Billy over here playing in the corner, is that okay? Well, no, that's not okay, because then they're not being supervised by their parent. If they come up to you and say, I'm going to take a smoke break, could you keep an eye on them for 5 minutes for me? That's up to you. That's totally up to you. If you want to do that, fine. If you don't, say, I really don't feel comfortable doing that. You'll have to take them outside with you to smoke. Now, they could go to another parent and say, Christina, I need to go outside and smoke a cigarette. I'm going to leave the kids over here playing with your kids. Is that okay? If she says okay, they can do that. Just listen all the time, because if they're making arrangements with somebody else to watch while they're on a smoke break and those kids get in a fight, I can't come back in and say, hey, my kid's crying. Why did your kid hit him in the face? And then you're going to have an issue. Okay, go ahead, sorry.
Any more questions on the code of conduct? The next page is the chain of command. It's pretty straightforward. The chain of command for any and all issues that arise while the church is hosting the Family Promise is as follows. Volunteer would immediately, with any issues, contact their coordinator. If the coordinator cannot handle, if the volunteer can't handle it, they contact the coordinator. If the coordinator can't handle it, then they would contact Kelly. Obviously, if it's an emergency, call 911 immediately.
When you all go, the volunteers that are here, because we have 1, 2, 3 church coordinators. Are you church coordinator or volunteer? Cole? Okay, so we have coordinators here and we have volunteers here. The ones that are volunteers, do you know your church coordinator's number and how to get a hold of them? That's what you need to know. When you go in for a session to volunteer, you need to know how to get a hold of your coordinator or whoever is the person that you're going to get in touch with if something happens and that coordinator is not there.
Okay. Guest overnight rules is the next page.
We got through the first line, and Kelly just said who to get a hold of if the coordinator's not there.
If the coordinator's not there, then it's Kelly.
It's me. Everything comes back to me.
We're gonna go ahead and do the guest overnight rules. Yes, ma'am?
Told you I was clueless.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
The last line says, please, if there's any immediate medical or dangerous issues, call 911.
Yes.
Can we get some examples?
If someone breaks their arm, if someone's freaking out, if you feel imminent danger.
If you feel threatened in any way whatsoever, for any reason, whatever, better be 911. Don't call me. Call 911. If somebody throws a chair and you don't feel comfortable de-escalating the situation, 911. Go right to 911 and pass that
I'll
coordinator.
just throw the chair back at him.
No, you can't do that.
No, you did not just throw that chair.
Or you know you're being recorded.
I do know I'm being recorded, that's why I'm backing out. I told you, can I go to the corner?
Stop. Yeah.
Guest overnight rules. I'm gonna start with number 1 and then we'll just do the same thing that we did before. Number 1, and these also vary church to church. This is kind of like a standard so that we have something, I think, mainly for the families to really go by. Each church is different and we, all want to respect each church's individual, likes and how they like to do things. And so it is a church by church basis as well, but this is just kind of like a guideline. So number 1 is guests will arrive around 5:45 p.m.
Chain of command, if there should ever be an issue, guests will go to the volunteer. If the volunteer needs, they will contact the coordinator for further input. And if needed, the coordinator will contact staff, which is me. I'm the only staff, besides Christina.
All right, Laura, are you ready for number 3?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Guests will clean up after themselves unless otherwise specified.
Number 4, children are never to be left unattended.
5, guests will sleep in area prepared for them.
6, guests need to be ready for pickup by the Family Promise family at 6:30 a.m.
7, doors locked at 9 p.m. No propping of doors. Leave after doors are locked. Will be locked out unless it is for a pre-approved reason, i.e. job, medical emergency.
8, on Sunday morning, guests will help clean and load their own bedding into the trailer, leaving the church space ready for Sunday use.
9, for program policy, there will be no use of drugs and or alcohol at any time.
guests will respect each church's kitchen policy.
11, no food items are to be taken into the sleeping areas. Baby bottles are an exception.
12, guests will wear appropriate clothing.
13, guests will treat staff, volunteers, and facilities with respect.
14, no visitors allowed at the churches. 15.
Smoking outside only by design area, no dogs on ground.
16, parents will be responsible for providing nurturing, patience, and understanding discipline to their children. Timeouts are very acceptable.
Number 17, no gifts or money will be given directly to families or children.
18, sleeping areas are to be kept clean and orderly, lights out before leaving for the day.
Okay.
I wanted to touch base on number 6. We do have, and I know most of you all know this, sleep-in day on Saturday. So it's not 6:30 on Saturday, it's 7:45.
For number 13, guests will treat staff, volunteers, and facilities with respect. When I do an intake with a family and we're doing the intake paperwork, which is like about this much, 25 pages of paperwork that we go over with, this one sentence right here, if it's not regarded, this one sentence can get them terminated from the program.
Which one?
Guests will treat staff, volunteers, and facilities with respect. I will not tolerate any family, adult, being disrespectful to a volunteer, a church coordinator, each other. That can get them terminated from the program, and they know that. So if anybody ever at any time should say something, I mean, if they're mad, that's understandable, they're gonna say things in anger. But to be disrespectful to you on a regular basis, I need to know about that, because it can be addressed. What was the other one?
Go ahead, Carol.
I have a question on number 14.
Yes.
I don't understand no visitors allowed at churches. You're saying they can't come to church?
No visitors to them.
Oh,
While they're using the church
While they're using the church.
as a shelter, they can't have their friends stop by.
Yeah. Now, they can have, somebody could, if they work early morning shift and somebody's gonna come and pick them up from work, somebody can come and pick them up to take them to work or drop them off after work. They can't say, oh, I got a friend out in the parking lot, we're gonna go share a cigarette, or we're gonna go sit in the car and listen to music. No, not allowed. They can have visitors here at the day center anytime they want while they're here, but not at the churches.
And sometimes you'll have grandparents or friends drop kids off and feel at their house.
Yes.
For the weekend.
Right, and that's fine.
Yeah.
And they know all these things.
Oh yeah, they get this stuff repeat and repeat for me. The last one, number 18, sleeping areas are to be kept clean and orderly, lights out before they leave for the day. Everything that we're talking about, the families get that from me. When they first come in, when we do intake, and then every Friday we have a housekeeping meeting and we go over all of these things. Every time they're going to a new church, on Friday I sit down and I say, today's Friday, it's housekeeping. On Sunday, this is the church you're going to, this is the church coordinator, and I'll tell them their name. If it's, say it's Faith Baptist, I'll say at Faith Baptist, you cannot go in their kitchen for any reason whatsoever. So please respect the rules at that church. Excuse me. Now, I also tell them when they go to the churches, they get a room. At most of the churches, they get a room with the door. It's their private space. Nobody's going to invade it. You know, somebody needs to knock on the door if you want to talk to them or whatever. But as the volunteers or the church coordinators, when they get ready to leave in the morning, you have the right to crack the door and look in their room. Make sure the garbage is picked up, make sure the lights are turned off. If their room's a disaster area, I need to know that. If they got dirty clothes laying all over everywhere and it looks like a nuclear bomb, I need to know that. If they want to be slobby in their life, they can do that when they leave the program. They can't do that while they're in the program. They can't do that here at the day center, and they shouldn't be doing that at the churches.
Any more questions? volunteer.
Wait, I have a question. I'm sorry, I was slow in the uptake of it. Well, this might be silly, because
No
obviously they're in
question's
the
a silly
program
question.
and maybe they don't have anything of value, but is there like a place where they can keep things like their medication locked up?
Kelly, the lockers, right? Where they can.
I have a medication lockbox here at the day center, but if it's prescription medication and it's something they need to take at night, it needs to be in a purse or a diaper bag or something that's on their person. They have to be responsible for their own medication.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm just thinking of, you know, if there's multiple families in there with little kids.
Yeah, yeah.
Little kids are sneaky little devils.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
So they could keep most of it locked up and just take what they need.
Take what they need in the evening, right?
Okay, so.
Sorry.
As if you guys don't volunteer enough, I'm just gonna tell you about some volunteer opportunities we have. Just spread the word, or if you ever hear someone saying like, oh, I'd like to get involved on a small scale or a larger scale. We're always looking for mentors. Up here I put some mentor the mentor training packets if somebody wants to look it over, see if they might know someone who's interested, or take one and give it to a friend. We always could use childcare when the families are here. We do a lot of classes out here for the families, financial classes and parenting classes. And so it's nice to be able to have the kids be able to be somewhere else so families can focus on, you know, the things that they need to. Kelly was mentioning that day center assistant would be really nice. I couldn't really figure out like what that looked like, and so Kelly did. She said that sometimes in the mornings there's a huge rush once all the families get back from the church on the van. Everybody's here at the same time. There's 2 bathrooms, and there could be 7 kids. So she jumps in and does hair or whatever, you know, to help with, you know, mom with 4 or 5 kids by herself out. And so if somebody came down on those days around that time, super early in the morning, what time did you say, Kelly? In the morning, to come down and help like with you in the morning with the kids in the morning?
6:30 to 8.
6:30 to 8.
If you're an
It's
early
rush.
morning person like me.
Rush hour. She's the only one I know that gets up that early. I don't know.
I get up
On a
there.
regular
I
basis.
usually not dressed before me.
Not functional. So we also do data entry and things like that, creating forms and flyers for events that we have coming up. Yeah, you can do that. Trailer mover. I got a couple of really good, solid guys that move the trailer for me from church to church, which is awesome. One of them just went through a tragedy, so we are looking for more backup trailer movers. Then there's always grant writing, fundraising, tech support, handyman, and van driver. We also consistently look for pet foster care families. We have families that won't come into the program if they can't bring their dog. So people will stay homeless because they can't make sure that their family member has a safe place to be. And so it's really nice to be able to provide them with that secure comfort, with the contract and everything that goes with it. And they often form really friendships. I've fostered Chihuahuas from one family to somebody that was fostering them, and they're friends, and they still walk their dogs together and hang out. So it's really cool. And then, last but not least, if you are a church coordinator or a co-coordinator, I made these red folders. They have resource lists. I gave one to Shirley already, I think. They have resource lists. They have all of the board members' names and titles. And then they also have volunteer hour logging forms. I need these so badly. If you guys have any from years or the year prior, send them to me so I can get them all logged in. But that is it, and now you get to deal with the fun stuff with Kelly. And I'm gonna go make you food.
Have we figured out a system for collecting those? Because I know sometimes.
It's kind of, I mean, there's not really one system that fits everybody. So it's kind of whatever works best for your congregation.
Can we still get to the van drivers?
Yeah, you can still do that. I didn't know that was,
Well, we used to do that a long time ago.
Yeah, that's fine with me. That's totally, as long as I know where they're coming and when to go get them and look for them, then that's totally fine with me, sending them with the van driver works.
I have a question on the volunteer hours. Do you want just the hours we're actually at the church interacting, or the work that we do at home in preparation?
If you're going shopping, I want you to count that. I
Okay.
think we talked about a cap for it, for shopping and
And
cooking.
cooking and all.
3 hour total per person. So if you have 2 people doing it, that's 6 hours total of volunteering. So that includes shopping, drive time, and preparing the meal and bringing the meal.
I didn't know that.
Unless it takes longer to do that, then, I mean, put what you feel, what
Well,
time
we
you
actually,
spend.
I think we're asking our church to be there for 2 hours.
Okay.
Oh, yes,
That's
that's,
after we
yes,
shop and prepare.
yes, you
so-
want to include everything that you do.
Mhm.
It does not have to just be at the church, everything that you do.
Right, but if there's a 3-hour cap.
No,
that's what I was
we
asking.
just meant, we wanted to make sure it's 3 hour, I shouldn't have said
At
count.
least,
At least
At
3 hours.
least.
Oh, at least 3.
yes,
Because if I understood right, you need that to help get funding.
yes,
So the more, if we're actually doing more, it's better to make sure
Yes.
you know.
Yep,
Okay.
yes.
yep.
And the I'm sorry.
Go
And the
ahead.
coordinator takes care of that, right? When I show up,
The coordinator should take care of that, yes.
But you will want to sign in or find this form. So your coordinator should have one of these forms or something similar, and then you can just put your name and the total of hours you volunteered. It doesn't even, like, the start time and end time is not really as important as your name, the date, and how many hours you put in.
but normally the coordinator will take care of it.
Yes, the coordinator should have this for you to be able to fill out.
Go ahead, Shirley.
So look, on the coordinator list, I just recently, I don't have this number no more. I
Okay.
went strictly to a cell phone, so if anybody wants to write down the number.
I do. All right.
It's 541-669-1550. And that's my cell phone, you can get up on there, leave me a message anytime. That's the other one as well.
Yes, ma'am.
I wanted more information about the foster dog or foster pet thing. Should I talk later?
I put some, I can answer any questions you have. If you want to talk during the barbecue, we can, and then Kelly will do this part, but I'll give you this to look over for right now if you like.
But I meant if there's, oh, okay.
So this is just the agreement that I'll give you.
Okay.
Okay, let's go, we're waiting on you.
Uh-oh.
You're in trouble now. Good thing you're sitting in the front.
It's a good thing I'm
Sit
sitting by
you out.
myself.
Yeah. Okay, the rest of your packet, the first page should look like this. Mental health, life skills, legal issues, all these wonderful issues. We're gonna go over a couple pages of this first, and then I'm gonna have Deidre, who's the church coordinator at the Congregational Church, is just gonna talk for a couple minutes about how she recruits her volunteers and interacts with the families when they're at her church with her, because she's there with them. She's one of the few coordinators who is there every night with them. She's there during dinner. This page, with all these issues on it, mental health, life skills, finances, legal issues, and recovery, these are life issues for anybody and everybody. They are not just for the families that come into this program. These particular issues are the issues that I've picked out that seem to be at the forefront when they come into our program, that need to be addressed when they first come in. The next page is a page, and I'm not going to read it to you. It's an outline of what our families go through while they're in the program. During the intake, they're in trauma. During the first 7 to 10 days, actually the first 7 days, I don't overwhelm them with a lot of things. I kind of hang back and I watch and I listen and I pay attention to what they got going on, how they're interacting with everybody else, how they're interacting with their children, and that gives me some insight into how to approach them and start dealing with them and pressing them about the issues, because they get 90 days when they come in our program. And 90 days seems like a long time, but it's not. 90 days goes by really fast. Sorry, guys. 90 days goes by really fast. And there are things that have to be done in a timely manner for them to be able to successfully graduate from the program. The first 3 to 4 weeks, they're getting used to being in the program. A lot of times they'll shut down because they're overwhelmed. They start to complain about the routine. They start asking why things can't be different for them. My pat answer and your pat answer to them is, it's policy. That's all you need to say is it's program policy. We don't change the program for them. They have to be accommodating to the program. The second month is when they start to calm down, and they are generally working by then, and they're trying to, the kids are in school. That's the very first thing. If there are school-age children, immediately they got to be in school. If they come in on a Friday or over the weekend, on Monday, I take them, we go to school, kids get in school. By the third month, they're looking forward to getting out of the program and being self-sufficient again. Okay, Deidre, you want to share a little bit?
You got something when it's time, I think.
Okay, I'll time you.
Go
ahead, you're good.
I can go on for hours, so. I spent most of my life being a volunteer, and I like being a volunteer coordinator too, because I've done a lot and I understand why all these big things are important. And I think volunteering at Family Promise to me is one of the greatest things in my life, because the families are really interesting and they are very nice people. They really are. We've had about 3 that I have a little trouble with, but but that was unusual. And as volunteers, you guys can have a part of recruiting volunteers. And as you know, well, you probably don't know now, but you will soon know that there's a rotating group of people because they don't stay forever. I almost stayed forever. Because this is the kind of thing I've been looking for all my life to be able to do. So the people who are volunteering in the evenings and so on can have a big impact on the turnover of the volunteers, because you know people in the community, and the churches provide the volunteer, but there's a lot of people in the community out there who don't know anything about it. So think about the friends you have, and if you find somebody who has a real interesting thing to do, or a good personality to talk to people and so on, talk to them about what Family Promise is and what it does. And the material I saw before we started was the fact that the church and the volunteers really get more out of it than the families do, and that is very true. And most of them are not obnoxious. And one guy that came in 2 hours late with a crab and wanted to cook it one time, I was not very. They're very kind about that. So, and I think a lot of times people thinking about volunteers don't think about their skills and their interests and their personalities and so on. And a lot of people are scared of little kids. A lot of people are scared of homeless people. So I try to think of the things that they would be good at. And I have a lot of times if people come and be there during an evening and get acquainted and see how they do and what they would like to do. strange people, and a strange group, and thinking about how you're gonna do it and how you're gonna do it. So many times we think of, we need a body, and one of the worst things of recruiters are saying, you should do this, or, don't worry about it, we just need a body. Don't worry about it, all these other things. It is a hard job, but it's very fulfilling, yes. I am getting old, and I'm finally reaching that point, so, although I've never been good at work, so.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You wanna,
Oh, no, I'm just standing up.
no, I want you to come up.
Oh,
Remember I asked you? I want you to just come up and share about how the families are at your church and, that. So the thing that I love about Debbie, I love Debbie, she's just a little peanut. The thing that I love about Debbie is that if we have a hard family or several hard families, and I know they're coming to Debbie's church, I'll call Debbie up and say, these people kind of don't want to help out. They don't want to do things. But Debbie can get them to get up from the dinner table and clean off their dishes, run the vacuum cleaner, clean up after themselves. That's the kind of stuff I want you to share with
well,
the
I
volunteers.
have found most of the people that come, what you have to realize is they are willing, but they need total direction. Total direction. You need to go to the point, put your plate and put it on that counter in the middle. And, I have people, they'll always do what I ask, but they need direction. They're not self-directing. Because some people used to say, well, some of my volunteers used to say, well, they don't get up and help, or they don't do this. And I said, did you ask them? And they said, no, well, they should just get up and put their plate. You can't do that. And especially with the ones with the little kids, you say, what you need to say is, oh, here's a rag to clean the high chair. Or here's a rag to clean that table, Or here's the broom in the dustpan, to sweep that area. You just kind of, you give it to them and say, here's what to do with it. Because my volunteers were saying, oh, they're not very helpful, they're this. And then I come and find them, but they need to be told every step. So I had to tell my volunteers, just please direct them, tell them where it is, tell them where to put it. I mean, it may be too much detail for us, but it's not for them because they're overwhelmed as it is,
I think it's because they're not used to living like that.
Not only that, no,
You live
it's
in
not.
a tent or in your car, there's no dinner table.
No, that's not the reason, no. I mean, that's not the only reason.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, I mean, because a lot of them have not always lived in a tent or a car.
No.
Most of them have been in a home. Most of them have most of these people have lived with family or friends. Most of them have shared community before, but with people they know. You talk to the majority of them and they've lived with either their family member or a friend for a while, but then they've ended up. But so that I haven't found that.
Do you think that they're maybe afraid to assert themselves?
I just think maybe some could be, I don't know what the reason is, some maybe just don't know how, I don't know, but I have just found the more direction you can give them in a nice, like, here's a rag, would you please wipe that table? Always saying, here's this, can you please do this? Or, here's a new bag, can you please empty your garbage can? And that just seems to always work the best. Never assuming that they always know what to do, but just helping them out in that way.
Debbie,
Uh-huh.
I think maybe they're just lack a little bit of confidence
Some of it is,
and afraid to make a mistake and
yeah.
so
And
forth.
some of it, they just don't think about it.
Well, they're in a new environment.
They're
They
in a
don't
new
know
environment.
where everything is.
It's different, right?
But the more we can help them, what I have found, the more we can help them to be contributors, the more they feel, like when I ask people, they always say, oh, thank you, I feel like I'm helping out too. The more we can have them do stuff, it does help their self-confidence. Oh, I mean, to be honest, if I have some people there and I'm out mowing my lawn, somebody will say, or I'll just say, hey, Steve, would you mind helping me out mow the lawn? Oh, sure, no problem. Because sometimes in the summer, in the evening, they're just hanging out, and, but, or, someone will say, oh, no, I have a bad knee or something. I go, okay, no problem. So, but just every opportunity you can give them to help they feel good. They feel good. Uh-huh.
So it helps if you read through this page, the 7 to 10 days in the intake. Just when you get time, when you go home later on, you get a minute, just read through all this information. It's a lot of information. I'm not going to tell you every single word tonight because it just would be too overwhelming. But you have to understand one thing. Every family that comes into our program is in trauma. They're in trauma. It's not just homelessness is the major trauma, but we have men, we have single fathers, we have men, we have husbands who come in here that feel they can't take care of their families and they're worthless. You got to understand how horrible that has to feel. I mean, I'm not a man, I can empathize, and I do it every day, but to be the head of the household and know that you're supposed to be providing for your family and not being able to do it, that's got to feel really terrible. So they're in trauma when they come in here. They're overwhelmed. They forget a lot of things. That's why I call myself Pete and Repeat, because I say the same thing to them on a regular basis, almost on a daily basis. You can't have food and drinks in the room at the churches. You can't smoke in the room. You have to go outside and smoke in the, just the basics of everything they need to know. And it's not because they're forgetful. It's not because they're being rude or disrespectful. It's because there's so much coming at them, so much coming in. And then on top of that, besides being homeless, everybody that comes into our family is either pregnant or has children. Pregnancy will stress you out like nothing else. To be homeless and pregnant, that's got to be a horrible feeling. And then to have little kids that they know they have to take care of, what are they going to do for daycare? I tell them they need to get a job. Which comes first, the daycare or the job? Daycare around here is extremely hard to find, really hard to find. So, when I put pressure on them, it's time to start looking for a job. What am I going to do for daycare? What came first, the chicken or the egg? That's a lot of extra pressure on them. So when they get to you at the end of the day and they're eating dinner, they're like this, man. They're just done. They're just toasted. Okay, so the next page, how do coordinators and volunteers can help? Be a good listener. I'm not going to go over every single bit of this either because I want to get to this up here. You need to pay attention to body language. Does everybody know what body language is? Yes? Good. Okay.
Generally. Okay.
When they come in at the end of the day and they're sitting there for dinner, just take a few seconds and look at them. Just, what do they look like? I mean, do they look like this? If they had a really horrible, rotten, awful day because they've been out beating the pavement all day and still can't find a job? Or are they sitting down and interacting with their spouse and their children like everything is okay and good? Just pay attention to their body language in general. There's 3 things that absolutely have to be reported to me. Any nonconformity to the church or program guidelines. If they want to prop the door open at night, no, can't happen. That's a safety issue. It's an insurance concern for the church. Any disrespect of coordinators and or volunteers or anybody in general, that's my number 1 thing. You can be homeless, you can be in a crisis, you can be in trauma. That does not entitle you to be disrespectful to another person.
I'm sorry, still clueless. Can you give
About
me an
being
example of
disrespectful?
disrespect?
You got an example of disrespectfulness, Debbie? Anybody ever been disrespectful to you?
I don't have to do that. I don't have to put that chair away if I don't want to.
Kelly didn't tell us we had to do that stuff.
Right, Kelly didn't say that.
Or Kelly said we could go outside and smoke anytime we want. you have to open the door for me. It's 10 o'clock at night and I want to go smoke a cigarette. Well, no, you don't. The rule says, and on that general page of church guidelines that Christina went over, it says 9 o'clock. We have a church that locks their doors at 8. We have a church that locks their doors at 9. We have a church that locks their doors at 10. I tell them 9 o'clock. If it's 8, it's 8. They have to be respectful of that. That answer your question?
Yes.
And
Okay.
they need to be respectful of dinner time.
Yes.
And you also as a coordinator, because we once had, at dinner time, they all need to eat around the table. That's just the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
When they come to our place, we pray and then we eat dinner, okay? But now you have to really be attentive, because one time we had a little boy, and he would eat in, like off to the side. And finally, when we got to talking, he had an anxiety thing, so we had to accommodate, and I set a little table up, and then he would sit and eat, because he would never just sit and eat with us. So sometimes you got to kind of find out what an issue is. But for the, I don't know if you remember that little boy that had to eat by himself.
Yes, I remember distinctly.
But so, so dinner time, and being disrespectful is saying, hey, I don't want it. I'm going to sit over here for myself.
Or being disrespectful, like we were talking about, were we just talking about dinner times? They'll come back to the day center and first thing in the morning, so excuse my language, first thing in the morning, they'll come in and start bitching. Oh my God, we had chicken again. We've had chicken 3 nights in a row. We've had pasta every day this week. Well, you know what I tell them? It's on the table. Somebody else took the time and love to prepare it and make it for you. You need to eat it. If you don't want to eat, excuse yourself. Don't be disrespectful to those volunteers. Don't be disrespectful to that church. Someone took loving, kind, care, initiative to make that meal for you. If you have pasta 3 days in a row, suck it up. That's what I tell
And
them.
be thankful.
Suck it up and be thankful.
Kelly,
Yes.
we do not serve beans every day at our church. I'm sorry, but we don't.
Good to know. Good to know.
Kelly,
Yes.
about dinner time, she mentioned, I've been serving dinner at our church for a long time, and there are some people that come at a different time. I mean, you're working for something. They're
Yes.
not there at dinner time.
Now, so every Friday is housekeeping meeting, and what that means here at the day center is that it's every Friday morning at 7 o'clock. They get here on the van at 6:30. Unless they're at work,
Right.
they need to be at that meeting at 7 o'clock with me. Because what we do is we go over all the Pete and repeat stuff again. We go over all the rules again. We go over which church they're going to. We go over you need to be to dinner on time, and just logistical nuts and bolts of here at the day center, who's doing which chores, who's not doing their chores. Then I get everybody's schedule. I send out the family profile. I'll pass this around so you can look at it. The family profile has the date they start, all their names, all their ages, any allergies, and any special needs. Now, if somebody is if they've got a work schedule, their work schedule will be on the bottom of this profile for your church coordinator to look at and say, tonight for dinner, we're only going to have 4 instead of 8 because 4 are working. So the coordinator is your go-to person for those who make meals and deliver meals to know exactly how many people you're going to be cooking for, because I find it highly offensive, not only to me, but for you and for the churches, if we have a family that just la-di-da shows up at 6:30 and says, oh, well, we already ate. No, I don't like that. We're not going to have that. You're going to be there at 6 o'clock and eat dinner, unless you're working. So if I put on there what their work schedule is, and I know that they're going to be coming in at 7, 8 o'clock, I may put on there, please save them a plate of dinner. Otherwise, nope, We have a church coordinator who had an issue with several children where they would make dinner, everybody would come to the table to eat their dinner, and the kids would say, we're not hungry right now. Then they'd go play. As soon as everything was cleaned up, they'd come back and say, well, we're hungry now. Well, she called me and she said, what do I do about that? I said, you do whatever you would do at home. What is that? And she said, well, I tell them too bad, so sad. And I said, I'm good with that. Too bad, so sad. This is when dinner is. This is when dinner is served. We're not going to have a picnic table of open dinner all night long. Yes?
So what about, I know we've had several families where, especially the little children, like maybe 4, 5, 6 years old, they are so particular on what they will eat. And I know some of us get so concerned, like, oh, they're not going to get their vitamins. How do we get them to get their calcium? And is that the parents' responsibility to make sure that they get them something that, so the kids will be okay that way meal-wise, but they won't eat the other things? Okay.
When I have parents that come back and tell me, well, my kids won't eat that food, and I'll say, well, then you need to feed them before you get on the van. You need to feed them before 5:30 when you get on the van. Or we just had a mother in here, not this last go around, but the one before, I'm pretty sure she had three small children, 3 children under 10, who were all very picky eaters. And I said to her, you can either feed them here at the day center before you go to the church, or you can make what they will eat and take it with you to the church so that you can all sit down and eat dinner together. I called the coordinator and I said, this is what I'm going to do. Are you okay with that? And they said yes. So there's always a way to get it worked out. The children are the parents' responsibilities if they're that, and trust me, there's some parents that are picky eaters like that too.
What's a person who's
What
trying to
about
help
the
them?
parents that, like, you feed the families and the kids don't eat and the parents don't really eat and everything gets picked up, and while you're still doing the dishes, after dinner, they come in eating hamburgers. That happens a lot.
Then I need to know that,
Okay.
because that's extremely disrespectful.
Okay, because that's, that's kind of how I feel, why should we
That's
bother
very
feeding them?
disrespectful, yes.
Yeah,
I
okay.
need to know that kind of stuff, because I don't like that.
Okay.
They don't have to eat what's served to them, but if that's the case, that they don't want to eat what's served to them, they need to eat before they go to the church and not get to the church and then leave and go eat somewhere and come back. They can eat before they go to the church. They don't have to sit down at the dinner table if they don't want to. They can go to their room. But they don't need to ruin it for everybody else either. Okay, the next page talks about boundaries. Does everybody know what boundaries are? Yes, good. Then I'm not going to read that for you.
Well,
Okay, I know where you're lacking, okay? The next page says,
everywhere.
it says the right way and the wrong way. That's about boundaries too. This page right here is very interesting. When you get a minute, just read over it. It has to do with trauma. Understanding trauma and the mental health consequences of it. We can have someone come in here who's got PTSD or anxiety. We have a lot of people come in here with anxiety. It could be social anxiety, it could be general anxiety, it could be whatever kind of anxiety. When I do an intake, I always ask about mental health issues. If I'm dealing with a person who has fairly severe mental health issues that are not being addressed with medication and or counseling, I will tell them this is not the program for you. I'll tell them, I gotta tell them straight up, because if I have a person that's bipolar, does everybody know what bipolar is? Way up, way down, and there's only this much in between. Okay, if they come in and they tell me they're bipolar and they're not medicated, then I tell them this may not be the program for you. I cannot guarantee that somebody's not going to trigger you. I cannot guarantee that when you're way down like this, you're gonna be functional enough to do what this program requires of you, which is find work and find housing. So it's a very rigid process that they have to go through to get into the program. The next page is tips for active listening. At the bottom of that page, it talks about mental health issues that we deal with in the traumatized person, which is ADD and ADHD, autism spectrum, obsessive compulsive disorder, oppositional defiant, the regular mental health stuff, and the last page is the same thing. Now, if we have a family come in here that has, they're in trauma, number one, so they're traumatized. If there are mental health issues that are ongoing and they can fit in the program, the first thing I'm going to tell them to do is, here's the counselor's number, make an appointment. I can't be their counselor. I am a counselor, I cannot be their counselor. I don't want to be their counselor. It just won't work. So I get them hooked up with counseling. We deal with a lot of children with ADD and ADHD and autism. I cannot tell you on that family profile that comes out that you look at, I cannot put on there and say, Sally Joe is autistic, or Bob is bipolar. I can't tell you that, it's confidential, you don't have the right to know that. What I can tell you is Bob may be moody. Bob has periods of being down and depressed. I may tell you that a child is ADD or ADHD because they're a child and they require special interaction with them, especially if they're not medicated. Okay? Hyperactive, I may use the word hyperactive, I may use the word full of energy, because they are. So, but I cannot tell you what their exact diagnosis is. Okay, now we're going to get to the really fun stuff. It's called SET. It's a communication skill. It's not in your paperwork, so if you want to take notes, you'll have to take notes. Okay, so when we talk about this, I'm going to talk about myself personally because I have a daughter that is borderline personality disorder. Does anybody know what that is? Borderline personality? Borderline, there are 7 personality disorders. You have paranoid schizophrenic, you have narcissistic, you have borderline personality disorder. My daughter is borderline. There's no medication for it. There's no counseling for it. It's just something that you have to learn to live with. And it's really hard to live with. They are black and white. There's no gray, there's no maybe, there's never an in-between of any kind whatsoever. They can be extremely emotionally volatile. They're always right. You're always wrong. Regardless. I could go outside and say, look at this beautiful blue sky, and she could say to me, Mother, it's not blue, it's purple. Okay, it's purple today. So this set of communication skills, which is called SET, S is for support, E is for empathy, T is for truth, is the #1 way to de-escalate any situation. It is the only way that I have found yet to date to interact with my child that will de-escalate her just like that. I mean, she could go on a tirade. Generally, it lasts about 2 hours with her. And then you never know what really set her off to begin with. So, support is being supportive with a statement, being empathetic, and then make a statement that's truthful. Got a situation? Sure.
You want me to just view it?
Yeah.
Alright. Kelly, I'm so disappointed. Today, on the way to work, my car broke down on the side of the road. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't have any money for gas. I have no way to fix the car. I'm gonna have to quit my job. I had to call out to work. My car's on the side of the highway, and now I don't know what I'm gonna do.
something supportive to her. Okay, what's that gonna be? This is not easy, you guys. It took me about 1.5 years before I really got this down. It's very hard. It's very, very hard. It does not come naturally. You know, when you have somebody coming at you like that, I just want to say, maybe you need to get over it. Okay, well, that's not going to do her any good.
What if you just said cool?
Yeah, that's not going to do her any good. So I need to be supportive with the statement like, wow, I hear that that must have been a really frustrating day for you. That's supportive. Then I got to be empathetic. That must really make you upset and feel hopeless, helpless, frustrated. And then I got to say something that's truthful. I know that when that happens to me, I feel frustrated and angry. That's truthful.
It's also supportive and empathetic.
Right. They have to be in this order. You can't take them out of order. They have to be in this order. But I'll tell you what, if you can get this down, you'll have it forever with anybody that has having any kind of a meltdown or any kind of verbal altercation. So when you have the families there and they're at dinner or you're interacting with them in the evening or in the mornings, listen to how they're talking, okay? Are they using words like, nobody listens to me. Nobody ever hears what I have to say. Nobody listens to me. Or they're saying, I see, you're just like everybody else. Everybody I see is always the same. You're all in the same group together. You're all against me. Or I think this whole thing is a conspiracy. I think this whole town is against me. It doesn't matter where I go, I think nobody wants to hire me. Or I feel like nobody cares about me. Listen to what they're saying. Listen to one of these 4 words that they're using. Will tell you cognitively what level they're on. So if I have somebody say to me, I gotta think of a situation. Somebody give me a situation. Has anybody ever had a hard time with the family at all? No? Yes? Yes? Give me a situation. Yes.
The one time I volunteered to spend the night with a family group,
Yeah?
it was at a school, and the coordinator didn't stay,
Right?
and I was kind of dropped in it.
Okay.
There was an emotionally unstable person there
Uh-huh.
with a child, and she only wanted the coordinator.
Okay.
She woke me up at like 11 o'clock at night,
Uh-huh.
and she had to have the coordinator.
Was she using any of those words?
Kinda. I'm having a
A lot of
difficult
words?
time remembering it, but
Yeah.
it was all about her.
Okay.
And why are you here? Why isn't the other person here? And this isn't okay.
Right. You can use the statements, I understand. I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're telling me. I hear what you want. And then go into, I'm the one that's here right now. How can I help you?
Well, I ended up calling the coordinator because she wouldn't let it go.
Right. Well, so then that's what you do. You call the coordinator. So let's say, I'll give you another example from my child. I came home from work one day and she was sitting on the porch just bawling. I mean, bawling her face off. So I get out of the car and I'm like, oh, I really don't want to deal with this. And I said to her, what's wrong? So it took me about 5 minutes to get out of her what was wrong. She overdrew her checking account. It was the end of the world. Was totally traumatized. It's the end of the world. there's no way I can fix it, it's impossible, I don't have any money right now, what am I gonna do, who's gonna help me, who's gonna fix it, it's never gonna be okay. To which I said, I understand that that can be very upsetting to you. And she's like, yeah, it is. I mean, tears turned off. Yeah, it is. And I said, does that really make you feel like it's the end of the world? Well, of course it is. I don't have any money. Where's that money going to come from? And I said, well, I think we can find a way through it together. Oh, okay. And then I said, there's been many times as an adult that I've done that to myself too. And yes, I find it very upsetting, but I can also tell you that it's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the world. Does anybody have any other kind of situation you want to play over, go over, talk about?
In your daughter's defense, I think it's the end of the world when I get there.
Yes.
With my own friends, I think that listening goes an awful long way. And sometimes not even saying anything. But that doesn't sound like that would work in all situations, of course. But it's just like, I hear you, and wow.
Depends on the person. It's going to depend on the person.
Yeah, okay.
So when I'm talking about this skill, I mean, my daughter's borderline, so that's what I have to use with her all the time.
Yeah, so this is good, these are good
Yeah.
suggestions, that's great.
What I'm talking about with our families is, hang on a second, let me get a squirmy volunteer.
Can't find her, I'll do it.
Okay.
She's getting herself in trouble showing me that if she ever uses it on me.
So I actually need 2 volunteers. One, I need another volunteer. Yeah, come on.
For you.
Okay.
So what do we do? So now you
Another
guys are
family
arguing.
person, not a volunteer.
Yeah, not a volunteer. You
Don't
guys are
argue,
arguing.
no fair.
Okay, so what we have is we have my 2 lovely assistants here.
Smoker.
Laura is the smoker. Carol is another parent in the family. Laura has asked Carol if Carol could watch her kids while she goes out to smoke a cigarette. Well, while she did that, one of Carol's kids smacked her kid in the face and took a toy away from her.
My kid is good.
So, right? Okay, so I'm going to be the volunteer, and these 2 are arguing. So you guys argue with each other.
Your kid had a toy that my kid wanted, so he took it.
So, what, your kid is just the whole center of the universe? You haven't taught your kid how to share?
He's younger, he's too young to share.
And he hit my kid. You can't let your kid come in here hit another kid.
That's true.
This is not okay.
I can see that you guys are having a disagreement. Is that a fair statement that you're having a disagreement?
I don't have a disagreement. I have a problem.
What's the
I want to go outside and smoke a cigarette and then some other kid hits my kid. That is not okay. These people cannot come in here and let their kids be violent with each other.
I can understand that having your child be hit by another child would be very upsetting to you as a parent. Is that a fair statement?
Okay.
Okay. And your child is how old?
2.
2. And your child is? 2-year-old maybe doesn't know all the rules of fair play when it comes to toys? Would that be?
I think that if a 2-year-old doesn't know the rules of fair play, his parent should be a little more attentive.
Okay. All right. Well, it would seem to me, if it were me and I wanted to go outside and smoke a cigarette, it might be better if I took my child with me.
She said she would watch the kid.
I understand that. Did you agree to that, correct?
Yes.
But do you have any way of, do you think that she really had any way of knowing her toddler was going to hit your child? Oh, please. Toddlers can be that way. So may I suggest that next time you go smoke?
I'll take my kid. He ain't safe in here.
Okay. And that's okay. Thank you, ladies. And that's okay. It's okay for her to still be mad. Whose responsibility is that?
Parents.
Yes, parents' responsibility. So listen, as volunteers, it's not your job to fix everything. It's not. You can't. It's impossible. You cannot. It's not your job to be responsible for every child or every parent. It's not. It's impossible. It's only your job to be there to love on them and treat them with kindness and respect and dignity, which is what they deserve, because they are parents that are traumatized and under stress and pressure. A lot of stress and pressure. Yes.
I was acting. I'm
Okay.
not really like that.
Point that out.
Right.
Really? But my kid would be good.
Right.
Of course.
Every kid is good.
I know.
Okay, so any questions at all about anything? Let's just open it up. Any kind of questions for anything, because then we're going to be done.
Were we supposed to sign these and turn them in there, or is it just examples?
It's an example. Well, now that you signed it, you can give it to Christina. It's for you to take to make sure all of your volunteers sign one.
Right.
And make a copy of it, or she's got extra copies if you need one.
But if
Yes.
they've already done it, the old ones are okay.
If they've already done it, then don't worry about it.
I have a question.
Just go for
I
it.
have never been a smoker. You said that most of the people in it smoke, and I was thinking, where do they get the money? I thought they didn't work. I thought they were homeless.
You'd be surprised.
That's not the issue.
You'd be surprised. They can take back cans, you'd be,
Homelessness isn't
I-
always a question of money.
no. I don't wanna gross you out, but you'd be shocked at how many people go around and pick up other butts and smoke them.
Well, plus it's an addiction.
It is an addiction.
I worked with people in recovery, and supposedly smoking and nicotine is a worse, harder habit to kick than heroin. That's what I
Yes.
was told.
Well, I know that's in my late husband passed away from emphysema because he was a smoker, and he tried a dozen times to quit, but he earned the money for the cigarettes.
Right.
That doesn't.
Right. What? What?
Is it possible for volunteers to maybe try to understand that these people feel like they have lost every single good thing in their existence?
So,
And if they were to give up smoking because it costs money, that's just another thing. And a lot of people, especially ones with mental health issues like anxiety and attention deficit, smoking is a way for them to set themselves apart and calm down. It's a private thing and it's helpful. So it's important not to I believe it's important not to victimize them further by accusing them of having a habit that they shouldn't be able to have.
Oh, I would
Just
never
because
say
they're-
anything to
but-
them. I would never say anything.
But
I
that
just-
statement that you made, how do they get the money for it? Doesn't it cost money? They're homeless. leads to that thought.
Well, but they
It's,
don't
you have to
do
be
that.
careful. You have to be understanding. I'm thankful when I can give somebody who's smoking butts at the laundromat a cigarette because, oh my God, that's so gross.
Yes.
I'd like to know from the group, what are examples of very successful meals that they really like?
Successful meals.
Hot dogs and macaroni, cheese and macaroni.
Macaroni and cheese.
Macaroni and cheese.
is very successful. And
Yeah.
hot dogs, they love.
No junk food.
No.
Yes.
The other one at my church that I've noticed seemed to be successful is pizza.
I was gonna say that too.
Oh, yeah, pizza.
Couple Murphy Tuesdays, man.
Pizza's always
They
a
like
good one.
pizza.
My little nephew Michael always liked pork chops.
Pork chops are good, yeah.
Pork chops, we know.
I
But you need
fixed
to
pork
make-
chops one time and they wouldn't touch them.
Really?
Yeah.
You never know. You never know what they're
Different
gonna.
one. I've served pork chops and everyone loved them, so you know. Just probably
So I
depends on
wanted
the
to talk
family.
about food just a little bit more now that you've brought it up again. When the families come in, if they're not on food stamps already, I encourage them to apply for food stamps and TANF.
Food chance and what?
TANF,
What's that?
it's temporary aid to needy families. So a mother can apply for TANF. If she's got children and she's not receiving child support, she's eligible to receive TANF, which is a cash aid with their food stamps. So if you have, I'm just thinking in general, so don't quote me. If you have 2 children and you apply for TANF, you're probably going to get in the ballpark of over $200 in food stamps and $300 in TANF. And they can use that, yes, per month. And they can use TANF to buy anything, gas, clothes, whatever they want. It's their money to spend. So when they come in the program, I say to them, look, we don't take your food stamps away from you. We don't dictate how you spend them, although I will have a tirade if I see you coming in here with a lot of junk food and soda. I will have a conversation with them about that because those are not healthy food choices. Families that come in here are extremely territorial about their food. They don't want to share. They don't want to give it up. They don't, and that's understandable. That's okay. So when they come in, I tell them it's the house rule. If you go buy something and you don't want to share it, you put your name on it. If it disappears, when we have housekeeping, we're going to talk about where it went and find out what happened to it. If you buy something like coffee creamer and you don't mind sharing it, don't put your name on it. Just know that it's going to be shared. And it seems to work fairly well until something goes missing. When something goes missing, then we have an issue that we have to deal with.
You line those little kids up and shake them
Pick them all,
down.
pick them all. Any other questions?
Shake them down.
Yes.
Question about drinks in the room at night. Can they take a bottle of water in their room?
It depends on the church. I would say it doesn't matter to me, but then it depends on the church.
Oh,
At my church, they can because I like water at night.
yeah.
So at my church, they can take water.
Yeah. But they'll say, so if you're the volunteer, they'll say, well, Kelly never told me that.
Right, they'll always say that.
They'll always say that.
A famous line you will always hear, Kelly never told me that.
Well, let's ask Kelly.
Well, just let me alleviate that right now. Kelly does tell them that. Kelly tells them everything every day, repeat and repeat. No food or drinks in the room. Wear appropriate clothing when you're walking around the church in the evening.
Define appropriate clothing.
Appropriate clothing is something that you can wear in front of other people. If a teenage girl comes out with, and I won't do it, but if she comes out with, like this and little shorts on that are showing her little cheekies, that's not appropriate. There's grown men in the program. Or say you have a teenager walking around who needs a bra that's wearing a t-shirt you can see through, not appropriate.
What
Or a
if the
mother,
camera- Yeah, thank you.
or a father walking around without a shirt on. Now, men go without shirts all the time and it's acceptable and it's okay, but in this particular setting, it's communal living, you guys. And one of the first things when they come in here to have an intake with me that I tell them is, listen, this is a beautiful program, it works, it's successful, but it's not easy. It's hard. It's very hard. It is a hard program. It's communal living. It's other people. It's other people's life skills. It's other people's decisions. It's other people's parenting skills, and it's other people's children. You cannot parent somebody else's child, so I have to tell them that. So it's a hard program.